So
Hopefully that
good.
didn't go on there. Welcome inside the scores table, post-game edition. Brian Haenchen and Danny Riego with you. Danny, I think we only go to really good games, and that's exciting for me. I think you're my good luck charm because none of the games that I've been to with you, except for one, I think has flopped. Tonight it was Hamilton Southeastern, rallying from an 8-point deficit in the second half to beat Fishers 70-67 in overtime. That's what I think was a 7-game losing streak versus their in-town rival. Maya Makaluski goes off for 28. Talia Harris for Fishers goes for 29. And in scoring her 28, Maya Makaluski went over 1,000 points for her career. So milestone night for her. A massive win for Hamilton Southeastern. And I'll turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, another great environment. Fishers and HSC. I mean, just to set the stage, like I've never watched a Fishers and HSC game and like thought, oh, these kids like really like each other. There's always a lot of subplot, but I think the 7 straight like that mattered. But just to set the stage, I mean, like Sid Parrish was there. It was her senior year when she lost the Mudsock, which actually started the 7-game stretch. Haley and Olivia Smith. Haley hit the game winner in that basketball game. Tamia Perriman was there. She has famously the 14-point fourth quarter, which ended Sydney Parrish's career in sectional. She was there. Riley Makaluski was there, who joked after the basketball game she never touched a Mud Sox trophy. So the stage was set for a great game, and it absolutely delivered.
Yeah, just unbelievable. And I mean, the best place to start is probably Maya. I mean, she does it again, and she's just been unbelievable this season. She takes over. She hit the free throws late to send it to overtime, takes over in overtime. I think she had all but 2 of HSC's points, doing it almost all of it, basically, except for an early field goal at the free throw line, getting inside, getting to the basket, and then either finishing through contact or at the very least getting to the free throw line where she's automatic. And in talking to Lauren Vota afterwards, she talked glowingly about just how much Maya's grown from last year to this year, just in terms of her strength, where she's battling a lot better inside and she's holding her own against the contact a lot better than she used to. And that's typical of players when they go from their sophomore to their junior years. But in Maya's case and in this specific game, it's so noticeable because that was the thing. And she's a young girl playing against full women, you know, with the Smith twins, for instance, who are such physical players and such big, strong players. That they were able to push Maya around a little bit. And that wasn't the case tonight against still a very physical Fishers team. So it's really cool to see Maya's growth, as Lauren talked about, from last year to this year.
Well, here in Indiana, we're all big Reggie Miller fans, and Winning Time, obviously, you know, that program, Reggie Miller famously said there's a time to play and there's a time to win. And it only matters what you do in winning time. Maya scored 14 first half points. She only goes to the free throw line in the third quarter twice to get her to 18 and doesn't score again until she hits the 2 free throws, which tie the basketball game and send it in overtime with 9 seconds left, including those 2 free throws. Yeah, she had 10 in the final frame, but just kind of an interesting point. Like there's a summer league that a guy named Eric Shellhammer put together. He runs the Mojo facility up at Finch Creek for Carden Associates. And he put together a summer league where Fishers and HSE played. And I was at that game, just random summer night. And Fishers and HSE were going at it like it was the regular season. And in that game too, Maya had this long stretch late where she didn't do anything and then hit 2 threes late. So like this kid's starting to figure out how to perform in winning time and making big shots. But that was real clutch tonight by her to hit those 2 free throws and to go on and have the additional 8.
She put up huge numbers against Noblesville a few weeks ago, and we saw her. But tonight, this felt like another level. And I think it's just the circumstances in the context of it being Fishers, of it being this team that they haven't beaten in so long. They just had their number that ended her season last year, that I think ended the year before too. So I mean, that's all she's known is losing to Fishers. That's all any of these HSC players have known, and a couple that came before them too, is losing to Fishers. So a huge game for them. Somebody else we should talk about, and I guess first of all, the depth again for HSE. That's something that we talked a little bit about after the Noblesville game, but tonight especially, where there was fouls left and right, everything was being called, and I think it balanced out, but it did feel honestly a little tilted against HSE. And maybe it was just the players who were in foul trouble, Kayla Stidham and KK Holman specifically, with Holman fouling out. I think, what was it, mid-fourth quarter, early fourth?
Yeah, about 3 minutes left, I think.
Yeah. But just for HSE's ability to maintain composure and for those kids off the bench to step up and hit some shots to keep things going and to give them a chance late was really impressive. And again, Kayla Stidham, where she catches fire late in the game, 3, 6, 8, 10, 12 points for her in the fourth quarter alone, and all big baskets. I think she had a stretch where she had at least 6 straight to get it within a 4-point game to give them a chance to set up Maya Makaluski. But Stidham was really impressive tonight too.
Yeah, Stidham, the 12 fourth quarter points, again, like we mentioned just in the previous discussion, Maya didn't score in the fourth quarter outside of the 9 seconds. And she actually had a chance to actually send the game into overtime. They contested a layup high on the left side, but she was a big part of the game flow and like date back to talking about how in Columbia City she played with fouls. She had to play with fouls here. And so in a small sample size of just one season, you got to see Kayla perform with fouls against Columbia City and end up fouling out of the basketball game and stay on the floor here, and not just stay on the floor to be present, but hit big shots. But Stidham, like, there was a play in the first half, if I remember, like, I think KK has the ball, throws a pitch pass up to Brinley. Stidham goes to the weak side corner and Brinley just dribbles with her left hand all the way from the half court and lays it in. So that illustrates that, even when Stidham isn't scoring the basketball, which she was in the second half, her presence on the floor affects every possession in the basketball game. So she's got to be on the floor, but she was really big tonight.
Brinley, you mentioned Brinley. She had some big shots, and I think she had the steal at the end of the game to seal it. I couldn't tell what happened, but that's what we thought it was. But it just speaks to that depth again. It just players stepping up, making plays.
Yeah, she had a 12-footer. I think if my memory serves me correct, late, whether it was to bring them within 2 or maybe even. No. So Maya's free throws were the ones that tied it. But yeah, Brinley was big. Van Houston too. There were a couple of, there was a key stretch, like one of the turning points in the basketball game. Satterfield, Stidham hits a 3. Okay, cuts the Fishers lead to 3 and then calls an offensive timeout. KK was still in the basketball game, so it was about 3 minutes left. And sometimes these offensive timeouts aren't really popular because the other team gets to get a set, get exactly what they want. But Talia was having her way to that point, and she was already on 29 at that point. And it was one of those things where you just have to look back at that timeout. And I would love to be in the huddle to hear what was said, because that had to be in a defensive adjustment, because Talia was hurt him on a couple of consecutive possessions. It could have been as simple as, hey, get on help line. But their defense really seemed to change from that point. Talia doesn't score from actually that timeout forward, doesn't score the rest of the basketball game. So that timeout by Satterfield probably won them the basketball game without being in that huddle or asking anybody. It just seemed like there was some adjustment there. And they were able to keep Talia out of the paint.
So going off of that, I think Stidham finished with a run of like 8 straight points, because she had 5 straight for HSC when it was her and Talia Harris going back and forth. And we'll talk about Talia here in a minute, because unreal. And then she hit the 3 that brings them within 4. And then the next tweet that I had, this is how I keep track of what goes on. Yeah. The next tweet that I have was Brinley cutting the margin to 2, which we talked about just a minute ago.
Yeah, there was that 12-footer. Okay. Yeah, that's when
Antoinette Green had a big game. Not offensively, but she was making plays. Defensively, kind of recovered from a shaky start. Brian Satterfield made sure to point her out as well. But I know the numbers say that's a 3-headed monster of a team. But now that we've seen him against Noblesville in crunch time, when Elite almost got away because of foul trouble, and a night when they had to come back from the brink against a really, really good Fishers team, the role players had to step up again, and they delivered. And they're really impressive.
To win with Kennedy Holman on the bench when there's an extra frame is impressive. Okay. And so all of those role players, whether it's Ant Green, who's hit big shots throughout the year and been really good doing a lot of the ball handling, defensively is really where KK just really affects basketball games on the defensive side. And when she's guarding a kid like Talia, to lose KK, I think naturally you're like, well, she's just going to do whatever she wants. And Ant Green came in and did a really good job on Talia Harris late, because that stretch after that timeout, the majority of those defensive possessions, Ant Green was matched up on Talia Harris there. But in switch though, Van Houston was out there guarding people. Lovelace had the first basket of the fourth quarter, which made it a 3-point basketball game. There were a lot of kids that stepped up for HSC, and look, that's what it takes to win a big Mudsock game like that.
I don't think I'll change it in the rankings for the Fab 15 just because LC hasn't done anything to bump back from the top spot. But after watching HSE and having seen LC a couple times now, I think HSE might be the most complete team in the area, just in terms of balance. And they may not have names or household names yet, but they have kids who fulfill their roles really well. Um, I don't know. Where would you rank them, or where do you think they stack up, just in terms of power rankings?
Well, just from a power rankings perspective, I mean, it's very difficult to compare the two without having seen it on the floor. The one thing I will say on a positive spin for HSE is everybody seems to really be starring in their role now.
Mhm.
Maya knows that she's got to go out and get buckets. And when she's sitting on 18, I mean, she'll be the first to admit to you that she wasn't great tonight. Okay. And that stretch in the second half where she was having problems and they were getting really physical, she's not going to, that's what she'll probably talk about, not the free throws and not the great sizzling start that she got off to, but probably that stretch is what she's really going to be critical about. But HSE, they have a formula. And when they apply that formula, we haven't seen them get beat yet. And of course, Lawrence Central, they have their identity. And when they apply their formula, we haven't really seen them get beat either. So, I mean, wouldn't that be fun if we just converge on Gainbridge Fieldhouse and see that one?
That'd be fun. That's what I was thinking about earlier today. Um, I'll use this as a transition to get to Fisher's side, but HSC and Fishers, I feel like tonight kind of solidified their status as, for now at least, the two best teams in Sectional 8.
Yeah, Talia was so good tonight. And she's a kid. When you walk into the gym and watch her play, you're always sitting next to somebody who's like, oh, this kid's really good. This kid's really good. And I don't know that she gets the I don't want to call it respect because everybody respects her, but she is definitely a kid that controls everything in a basketball game. And she had 29 tonight, but she could have also had 9 and really would have affected the basketball game in a different way. But she was big time. She had game high honors and she deserves them because she had the best game. I think, again, that defensive adjustment with whatever happened in that huddle with about 3 minutes really just got them out of rhythm. I thought they took a couple of ill-advised threes late. Maybe they didn't need. But what impressed me most about Fishers is they didn't look scared at all to try and score with HSE. Like the way that they were running the floor, I mean, Dickman got a couple of leak outs. Talia loves to run. But they were getting out in front of HSE and putting possessions into this basketball game. And it looked for a minute that if you want to try to play this game in the 70s, we're coming with you. And that was really impressive. And I also think, from a game flow perspective too, the fouls really mattered because, with Holman and Stidham both having 4 and both starting the fourth quarter on the bench, Fishers was able to just be more aggressive. They were more aggressive attacking the rim, particularly on the offensive glass. I can remember 2 really big offensive rebounds that Allison Choi had, which led to all of them led to points. But they were just more aggressive. So I think if they can just find a way to close a game like that, they're there. And I think Fishers, look, they want to win Mudsock, okay? But in a vacuum outside of HSE versus Fishers, I think they learned that they can play with anybody. But Talia really, I think, grabbed headlines. I think deserves the headlines. She was really, really good tonight.
Talia is a kid who has taken ownership, it feels like, of this Fisher team. Obviously, there's a lot of good players on that, but this kind of feels like her team to an extent. And that's not a slight on anybody else because there's so many good players on that team, but it's kind of like she's the one who makes them go. And tonight, she had a stretch there where she scored 16 of 18 points and 6 straight. I mean, that's unbelievable. Like, she put that team on her back and took ownership of that team. And it's funny. I was thinking about this in the drive home. I mean, just a few months ago, we were watching Talia and Maya play together in that Futures game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Yep. Fast forward to tonight, they're on opposite ends of the court, and they're both dominating and carrying their teams for stretches. Obviously, the standard disclaimers or whatever, but I mean, really, what Talia did tonight was holy crap. And I think the way that I look at what you were saying about Talia kind of being overlooked, or not to put words in your mouth, but what you were getting at, the way that I kind of look at it is, kind of feels like she's moving out of the shadows of Haley and Olivia Smith, because I mean, they were the face of the team for so long, and they were the team's identity for so long, and now it's Talia's team and Allison Choi. But zeroing in on Talia, every time she had the ball in her hands, you kind of hold your breath to see what she's going to do next. I mean, she had some excellent moves. Um, she had some great passes. She's just a phenomenal game. It's too bad she couldn't get the win tonight because I mean it was literally a career night for her, and it's something I'll write about Monday. But Vota talked about how much work and effort and time it's taken to get her to this point, and obviously there's still room to grow, all that crap. But I mean, just so much fun to watch and just such a great kid. It's awesome to see her flourishing the way she does.
Well, the kids on Fishers play around her really well too. I think they space the floor on the weak side pretty well, and that was how they were able to hurt him. And maybe that was the adjustment and just really just dropping help line on the weak side to really keep Talia out of the paint. But Robert spreads the floor really well. Choi really understands her role, but I'm going to focus in on Nevaeh Dickman. I thought Nevaeh Dickman was really good tonight. And Haley and Olivia Smith, you had mentioned them kind of being the faces and everything kind of ran around them. Their defensive game plans, offensively, they're taking the big shots. But every Batman needs a Robin, and if Talia is Batman, Dickman's a really good running mate. And tonight, I think she played two ways really well. What did she have tonight? Did she about 17 probably, right?
18.
18. Okay, so she had 18 tonight, and all throughout. But the defensive job that she did on Maya, and I know people are going to open up the box score and people are going to say, well, Maya had 28. But again, we're trying to give you context to this. Maya has probably maybe 12 of those in the first quarter. And then really there was that second and third quarter stretch where the majority of the time Maya had Choi in her face, Roberts in her face, and as long as they weren't in a switch or Dickman wasn't out with foul troubles, the majority of the lion's share of the responsibility in taking Maya out of the basketball game was given to Dickman. She guarded her from the jump, and they never got away from that. And that was a big question mark coming in. And I asked it with anybody that would talk to me about this basketball game. I couldn't wait to see what Lauren did defensively. The answer to the question was, I'm going to let Nevaeh Dickman guard her straight up with minimal help. And I thought she did a really good job.
Yeah. Oh, she was fantastic. She was fantastic. And then, yeah, like you said, when Morgan Roberts had to switch in and do it, Morgan did a great job on her too. And obviously Maya had her numbers, but in the first quarter, even, I mean, there were a few of those 3-pointers where she had a hand in her face. Like, I think I got one of them on video, a couple of them on a video where the player's coming in, arm in their face, and Maya just hits it because that's what she does. So really can't fault Fishers at all with their defensive effort on her. On my end, Jordan Smith really too. We were texting about it, but she was a spark plug early.
I love watching Jordan play.
Yeah, she was phenomenal. Get him going. Some of the big shots that you talked about, Dickman hit one. She answered when Brindley cut the margin to 2. Dickman hits a shot on the other end, draws a foul, gets it to a 4-point game again with 42 seconds left. And then in overtime with 37 seconds left, Morgan Roberts comes up with a loose ball, goes the other way, lays it in, and makes it a 1-point game with 37 seconds left. And then Fishers had a chance on that last possession, down 3. I neglected to ask Lauren about it because I'm bad at my job, but looked like they were trying to get something quick to the basket, maybe draw a foul, which honestly, the way that the game was officiated makes a lot of sense because there was some of the ticky-tack stuff. Like, they were calling it tight, but they were consistent, so you can't fault them there. I thought they did a good job of being steady with it, but Fishers tried to get something quick to the basket and turn it over, and that's your ball game there. But really impressed with Fishers.
One of the hardest things to do in basketball is get a 3 when the other team knows you need a 3. So that's a very difficult situation. I go back to the end of regulation is the more critical crunch time thing. I mean, everybody. So to set the stage here, I think Stidham gets a layup to make it a 2-point basketball game. They push up. Everybody in the gym is yelling foul, foul, foul. Everybody is yelling
right,
foul.
Yeah.
And they don't. And Talia was fully expecting the foul, but oddly they don't. They jump her from the weak side. They lose the basketball. You said Brinley was the one that possessed the basketball, pushes it up to Maya, or pitches it up to Maya. And then Maya shoots it across the lane to Stidham, where they still contest there. And then Maya grabs an offensive rebound. But again, the deflection by Maya, the offensive rebound by Maya, and the 2 free throws by Maya in 9 seconds, that kind of goes back to, just to come full circle here. It's just a winning time play by a kid who we continually talk about as probably having, as good of a singular season as anybody in the state.
I think it was Brindley had the steal in overtime to seal it. I think it was Ant Green, who had the one right
At the
before
end of reg.
tying free throws. I think that's how it went, just looking back at the video. But my God, man, that's like one of
Yeah.
those games where you just need a cigarette and a cold shower, whatever this game is. I think it's appropriate. I don't know. Don't smoke. It's bad, kids. Um, it's late. But man, that was so much fun. And yeah, I mean, this is something too. I mean, while we're here, we might as well talk about it. But Center Grove and what they did to LN earlier in the day. I'll
Yeah.
give you the floor for one quick thought on the what was kind of a dismantling by the Trojans.
Center Grove, and Josh nailed it on the podcast. Go back and listen to the second episode because he drills it. He said with 4 days to prepare, Center Grove is going to have a really good plan. And it just seemed like they knew exactly what Lawrence North was going to do. They had all the player tendencies down. They executed a game plan. And I think they are the best in the business at guarding the pack line. You have no driving angles in front of them. You have to hit shots or you're not going to beat Center Grove. And when Center Grove is hitting shots, you got to hit with them. And that's tough. But they had it all cranking today. They're a formidable threat to win the state championship and come out of the South. They're really good.
Career day for Lily Bischoff. And I'd like to point out that I think this is 4 straight games now that I've been to where a kid has had a career high. So I think I just have the magic touch at this point. And I just jinxed myself and I ended up with like 4 really bad games to close out the new year. But that was really fun. I got to get to writing. Danny's got to get to whatever Danny does. I don't know. Do you also write? Probably. You can write my story if you want.
No, thank you. No, that one took a lot out of me. That was a heck of a basketball game. Good for the community too. I mean, it's just they had a good one last night. The gym was packed. Gym was packed tonight. Like I said, everybody was there. But again, it matters. Like, they're flying the flag after the basketball game.
It felt like they won a sectional game.
Yeah, I mean, it just did. But I can't imagine. I didn't actually know that they had lost 7 straight. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know they lost 7 straight until you had mentioned it on the podcast. That was, I know I need to do my research, I guess. But that one mattered. But look, we could see it again, in sectionals when these teams pair up again. And I think we learned a lot from this basketball game. And it'll be interesting if they do match up again to see how how the 2 coaches will adjust and how the practices lead up and things like that.
That was a lot of fun. I'll have plenty on this. I'm going to have a story as you watch this. You're probably reading it now. Story on Maya Makaleski from tonight. Then Monday wrap will be Talia Harris. Some of the things that Fisher saw from there. Some of those unsung heroes and other pieces for HSC that stepped up, as well as some takeaways from Center Grove and some other wild happenings, Fab 15, all that stuff, and a story on Elliot Leffler coming up next week. We'll also be back with a new podcast before Christmas. So we thank you all so much for watching. We'll talk to you again soon.